In this painting, we're going to go after a night view of Totem Rock. We're going to put an arm of the Milky Way in the background, and actually that's going to be the main area of entertainment in our painting. And so we're going to spend a fair amount of time on creating the sky. This is going to be a beautiful painting. Night paintings can be somewhat difficult because there's a lot of darks in them. But if you'll power through this with me, you're going to end up with a really beautiful painting. Let's go. I have three reference images here. The arm of the Milky Way is an element, the totem rocks, of course. The foreground, I want to have a glow of light on in order to highlight Totem Rock as a dark shape. I don't know if I'm going to put the moon in. And I have lots of references for the stones. And so here we go. I'm going to lay in the base sky colors, and then we'll paint the dark night sky over the top and lift out some of that dark paint, re-exposing the brighter colors underneath. And so I want some fairly saturated colors. The foreground, keep in mind, is going to catch some star glow on it. So I don't want the brighter warm colors on the foreground. I use the spray bottle to soften the edges. And I'm going to add even some more intense color into the Milky Way background. And so this is our base sky. I'm just gonna let that dry. This is a fun part, just have fun with it. There's no lines to follow, no worry about drawings, just let the colors blend into one another and enjoy yourself. Okay, we've established the base colors that will go in our Milky Way arm. Now we're going to paint the darker color of the night sky over the top. And then we're going to use some clear water to delay drying of the Milky Way arm area. Okay, here goes some of the clear water in the pattern of the Milky Way arm. And this will slow drying of the base night sky. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on this sky because it's going to be a major feature of the painting. Okay, some time's gone by. The base sky is dry to the touch, and where we put the clear water can still be lifted. So we will stamp down the paper towel. You don't want to scrub it at this stage. And then we'll lift away the areas that were still wet. And what this does is it gives me a somewhat random, much more organic or natural shapes and objects that can be used to suggest the star field. Now I'm going to scrub some extra paint out. I don't want all the hard edges to survive this. So we're going to soften some of those edges by using clear water in the brush and just scrubbing away at some of the edges. And then lift with the paper towel again. Now this is a larger pattern than we'll need, but we're going to come back in and lay in some washes and glazes of darker color. We basically want just one edge to be bright, and then the other edge of the shape we want to fade into the night sky. And like I said, this is going to get a lot of attention because it is kind of the major feature of the painting. We will have Totem Rock silhouettes against it, but the idea is to capture that effect of the amazing stars on a clean and clear night sky. I'm going to create some of the star field around the brighter arm. I do this by tapping the brush. This process is somewhat involved. For the stars that are away from the arm, I'm going to hold the brush further back from the page, and I'm going to use a pastel color for the stars that isn't white. It'll be more muted, so those are deeper, further away stars. And holding the brush farther away from the canvas allows them to spread out more. For the stars that are actually in the arm, I'll hold the brush closer and you'll see me use several different colors in the Milky Way arm stars. So I'm muting down some of the one edge of the concentrated star nebulas or star fields, and I really just want one brighter edge. And then for the lifting and stars that are away from the Milky Way arm, we're going to glaze over the top of those several times to cut down the brightness so they don't compete with the main Milky Way arm. More darkening of one side of the shape, which leaves me a bright edge on one side. Kind of just working intuitively here, following the painting. I'm not trying to follow the photo reference. Just trying to look at the painting and see what it needs next. I throw some occasional star spatters in there as I go along just to feel it build up. More darkening, of course. Okay, we just dropped that deeper star field off to the left down so it doesn't compete as much with the main Milky Way arm. We're getting quite a bit of water in here, and that's okay. We're gonna let that blend and flow, and then that's gonna need time to dry. I had a little problem there where the star field knew about the edge of the canvas, and that can't be possible, so I made it extend off the top. Now we're getting some pretty thick paint on there that we're gonna blend and flow away, all the time keeping kind of the left edge more defined. It's a somewhat arbitrary choice that probably being driven by my reference photo. Now some of the brighter stars in the arm. Notice I hold the brush closer to the canvas, and then the colors are closer to white, and I'm trying to match the colors of the exposed color that we did when we originally lifted back out of the night sky, just so that those stars seem to belong with the more nebulous mass. Now I'm holding the brush far away from the canvas to get a more diffuse pattern of stars. They won't be as close together, and that too will help emphasize the Milky Way arm. here I'm using night sky colors to spatter onto the lighter part of the arm to suggest little holes through the nebulas and stuff where you can see into the deeper night sky. And I'm pretty happy with our starry sky. You can see the more gray stars, the brighter stars. As we get into the arm of the Milky Way, you can see bright colored stars that match some of the colors in the Milky Way arm. And there's that fix up at the top. If I hadn't put that little group of nebula and stars near the top there, it would have artificially paid attention to the top of the canvas too much. So we're going to be ready to kick off and start painting Totem Rock with this as the background. All right, we have our multi-layered sky. Now comes the fun part. We just have to paint the rock silhouettes against the Milky Way arm. So relax and have fun with this. I'm going to use an underlayer of bright color and then a very dark mixture of black and purple, and just let some of the brighter colors peek through. I get my reference of Totem Rock and just kind of ad-lib the basic shapes. Don't worry too much. If you want, you could draw over the starry sky at this point, but it's kind of fun just to wing it. I'm varying the color as I go. I always try to do this when I'm laying in color, is to change it as I move along. It adds a subtle layer of interest to the painting. I think a lot of us tend to get a mixture together and then you're just worried about finishing the shape, but it really is more entertaining to vary the color as you go. There's lots of smaller spires around Totem Rock, and if you change your position or go in a circle around Totem Rock, you'll see a lot of different compositions, so I'm not worried about copying the picture in any way. What I'm worried about is interesting spires relative to the star field, and I want to let that peek through, and I'm just gonna have fun with the colors on the smaller spires and just relax. I mean, depending on how you position yourself with your camera, you can see almost any combination of spires around Totem Rock. Now it's time for the dark foreground dunes, and we are really going to see the starlight step up a notch as we cover the other light areas of the painting. I'm just letting some small ridges peek through this darker layer of the dunes, and then I'll put some highlights on the dunes to finish them up and finish the foreground. I don't want the dunes to be as dark as the night sky, hence the highlights that we'll put on top. I'll also use a brush with some clear water in it and just kind of scrape out some not as strong ridges, cut down some of the ridges that I already put in there, because I want the brightest area to be the starry sky. Okay, the undercolor for the rock spires has dried, and here comes a really dark layer. Hopefully it's darker than the night sky, and we'll let some ridges and bands of color peek through from the underlayer into the final rocks. Just keep covering the rocks as I go with the darker paint. I'm gonna beef up some of the undercolor because it's not intense enough as I look at it. And in my mind, it also creates some layers between the rock spires. I switched to my 1-inch brush for flat from my 1/4-inch flat just to get these subspires done a little more quickly. And I want to let some of the colors peek through. The paint's going on very thick at this point, so that the texture of the paint kind of goes along with the texture of the spires. You must commit to deep darks in this painting if you want your stars to show up as the brightest objects. There we are, we're finishing all the spires. Little hints of the bright color poking through. Now some highlights on the dunes. They can't be too bright. They must stay darker than the star field above. But just to add to the depth and layer of the dunes, I wanted to put those in. It makes that lower shape a little bit more interesting. I'll paint the edges of this canvas, but that's our painting, and I'm very happy with it.